The palace of Vr Prime was a marvel of silver stone and glowing crystal towers. From far above, ships drifted across the skies like tiny sparks against the vast blue. For those who lived outside the palace walls, it was a place of wonder and pride. But for Princess Illyra, the grand halls and endless corridors often felt like chains. Illyra was young, graceful, and admired by her people. Yet her heart carried a weight that beauty could not hide. She sat in the royal garden, where tall glass trees shimmered in the light of two suns. Birds of silver wings sang high above, but the princess heard no music in their voices. She stared at the horizon, her eyes distant. The court advisors had announced her fate only days before. A marriage would be arranged, they said. Not for love, not for choice, but for duty. Her parents, the king and queen, explained gently that alliances were the foundation of peace. The Viori kingdom was strong, yet even the strongest needed allies. To them, this was a wise decision. To Illyra, it was a prison built with golden walls. She remembered her mother's words, "Daughter, a ruler's path is never simple. You must think of the people before yourself." Illyra had nodded, as a loyal daughter should. But when she was alone, her chest tightened. She wondered if her people truly needed her sacrifice, or if it was simply the way things had always been done. Walking through the gardens, Illyra touched the petals of a rare starflower. Its glow was soft, yet fleeting, just like her smile had been in recent years. She tried to recall the last time she had laughed freely. Perhaps it was during her childhood, when she ran through the markets with her guards chasing after her. Back then, life had been simple. Now, every step was weighed down by expectation. News of the marriage spread quickly across the palace. Servants whispered in the kitchens, guards traded guesses in the corridors, and nobles spoke in hushed tones during council meetings. Some believed the princess would be married to a powerful ruler from a nearby system. Others thought it would be a wealthy prince from the neighboring trade worlds. Every rumor only added to Illyra's unease. That evening, she attended a council gathering with her parents. The chamber was vast, with pillars carved into the shapes of ancient heroes. The air carried the quiet tension of politics. Illyra sat silently beside the throne as her father spoke of treaties and negotiations. To him, the future was a matter of numbers and promises. To her, it was a matter of the heart. When the meeting ended, Illyra walked slowly through the empty hall. Her footsteps echoed against the marble floor. She thought about the life ahead of her. A husband chosen by politics. A crown shared with someone she did not know. A smile worn for the sake of appearances. But in her heart, she longed for something different. She wanted to see the galaxies beyond her world, to hear the languages of strangers, to stand in places where no one knew her name. Most of all, she wanted to choose her own path even if it was a small one. Later that night, as she sat by her window, Illyra gazed at the stars. The palace lights reflected in her eyes, but she saw beyond them. The stars had always been her comfort, a reminder that the universe was wide, and perhaps her fate was not yet sealed. Still, the thought of her marriage loomed over her like a shadow. Her maid, Lyra, entered quietly with a tray of tea. "You seem troubled, princess," she said softly. Illyra gave her a faint smile. "Do I?" "You do," Lyra replied kindly. "But perhaps things will not be as heavy as they seem. The stars bring surprises." Illyra looked at her, surprised by the gentle wisdom in her voice. She nodded but said nothing more. The truth was, she could not imagine any surprise that would change her feelings. Yet, deep within her, a quiet hope remained. A hope that the future, though uncertain, might hold something more than duty. As the night deepened, she whispered to herself, "If only I could smile again." The stars shone brighter, as if listening. The days passed slowly after the announcement of the arranged marriage. Illyra tried to keep her face calm, but her heart carried unease with every sunrise. She spent more time in the gardens, walking among the glowing flowers and listening to the gentle streams that flowed through the palace grounds. The beauty of the world around her seemed almost mocking. How could the skies be so bright when her own spirit felt dim? The royal court was busy with discussions. Servants carried scrolls, advisors whispered in corners, and guards stood watch as if preparing for a great event. Illyria heard fragments of conversation but understood little. Words like alliance, treaty, trade, and security floated through the halls. None of them spoke of joy. None of them spoke of her choice. One afternoon, Illyria's younger brother, Callan, found her sitting beneath a crystal tree. "You look sad again," he said. She gave him a soft glance. "Do I always look that way?" "Lately, yes," Callan replied honestly. "But maybe you won't be sad for long. Father says your groom will not be like the others." Illyria raised her brow. "What do you mean?" Callan leaned closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "He is not from our neighboring worlds. He is not even from our part of the galaxy. He is from Earth. He is human." Illyria stared at him, surprised. The word human was familiar but distant. She had read about them in her studies, an ambitious species from a young planet, new to the galactic stage. They were not known for vast empires or ancient traditions. Instead, they were known for their stubborn will, their creativity, and their speed in learning. "A human?" Illyria whispered. "Surely the council cannot be serious." Callan grinned, enjoying her shock. "They are. He is coming soon. His name is Daniel. He will arrive with the Earth delegation." Illyria tried to keep her composure, but her thoughts tumbled like storm clouds. She had expected a powerful alien prince or perhaps a wealthy ruler from a trade colony. A human was unexpected. Some would call it bold. Others would call it foolish. But what did it mean for her? That night, the palace was filled with tension. The advisors debated in the council chamber. Many were displeased. "A human? This is reckless," one of the elder nobles exclaimed. "They are untested. Their fleets are small. Their history is short." Another advisor shook his head. "Perhaps, but Earth is growing. They move quickly, faster than any species we have known. An alliance now may shape the future of the stars." The king listened carefully but spoke little. The queen's gaze was calm, yet her silence suggested she already knew the path chosen. Illyria remained quiet through the debate, though her heart raced. She wondered if this decision was made with her happiness in mind or only for the kingdom's future. Still, something inside her stirred. A human groom. Strange as it was, it sparked a faint curiosity. Days later, the grand hall of arrival was prepared. Flags of silver and blue hung from the ceilings, and golden lights reflected against polished marble floors. Courtiers filled the chamber, dressed in their finest robes. Guards lined the path, holding ceremonial spears that gleamed in the sun. Illyria stood at the edge of the hall beside her parents. She wore a gown of soft crystal blue silk, her hair woven with tiny silver threads. Her face was calm, but her hands were clasped tightly together. Her heart pounded as the great doors slowly opened. The Earth delegation entered with steady steps. They wore simple yet dignified uniforms, lacking the ornate details of alien courts. At their center walked a young man with dark hair and clear eyes. He carried himself without arrogance, but his posture was straight and respectful. "Illyria," her mother whispered gently. "That is Daniel." The princess looked at him, studying his face. He was not as tall as some of the alien leaders she had met, nor did he wear jewels or heavy crowns. Yet there was something about him, something steady and quiet, that caught her attention. Daniel approached the throne and bowed deeply. His voice was firm but polite as he spoke. "I thank you for welcoming me. I come not as a conqueror, nor as one who demands. I come as a guest, and perhaps, in time, as family. The court grew silent. Illyra felt the weight of every eye in the chamber, waiting for her reaction. She had expected pride, or perhaps nervousness, but not this simple honesty. For the first time in many months, her lips curved into the faintest of smiles. It was small, almost hidden, but it was there. She did not yet know if this human would bring her joy or sorrow. But as she looked at him standing humbly before her people, she felt a spark of something she had thought lost, hope. The grand hall slowly emptied after the Earth delegation's arrival. Advisors whispered among themselves, nobles exchanged doubtful glances, and guards returned to their posts. But Princess Illyra remained seated on the throne's side, her eyes fixed on the young human who had just entered her world. Daniel stood calmly before the king and queen. His uniform was simple, with a crest of earth embroidered on the chest, nothing like the glittering robes of alien leaders. His words had been respectful, his tone honest. Illyra had expected arrogance or fear, but she had seen neither. Instead, she had seen someone steady, almost humble, which surprised her deeply. The king spoke first. Representative Daniel, Earth is young among the stars. Yet you come here with courage. Tell us, what is it you hope for? Daniel bowed again. Your Majesty, Earth hopes not to rule but to learn. We hope to build bonds with those willing to guide us, and to share what we can offer in return. The nobles murmured, some with interest, others with doubt. Illyra studied him closely. His words carried no hidden threat, no polished deception. He spoke simply, as if truth was enough. She found herself wondering, was this how all humans were? The queen smiled softly. And are you prepared to honor the bond our worlds propose? An alliance, sealed by marriage. Daniel hesitated for the briefest moment, then nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. If the princess agrees, I will honor it with all my heart. Illyra felt a stir within her. He had not said I will obey, but rather if the princess agrees. That small phrase touched her more than any grand speech could have. For once, someone had spoken of her choice. The hall slowly cleared until only the royal family, Daniel, and a few guards remained. The king rose from his throne and said, "You must be tired from your journey. Rest, and tomorrow the princess will show you the palace." Daniel bowed once more. "Thank you, Your Majesty." As the king and queen left with their advisors, Illyra found herself alone with Daniel for the first time. The silence between them was gentle, but heavy with curiosity. She stood gracefully and approached him. "You are not what I expected," she said at last. Daniel tilted his head slightly. "And what did you expect, princess?" Illyra looked at him thoughtfully. "I expected pride, or perhaps fear. Most who come before this throne carry one or the other. You carry neither." He gave a small smile. "On earth, I was taught that pride blinds, and fear weakens. I thought it better to carry respect instead." His words were simple, yet they made her heart soften. She gestured for him to walk with her, and together they moved into the palace garden. The air was fresh, filled with the scent of glowing blossoms. Crystal trees shimmered softly in the evening light, and streams of clear water reflected the stars beginning to appear in the sky. Illyra glanced at him as they walked. "You are far from your home. Does it not frighten you to be here, among strangers?" Daniel paused, considering her question. "It is strange, yes. But fear? No, I think fear is wasted on what we do not yet know. Instead, I am curious. And curiosity feels lighter to carry." Illyra almost laughed, a sound she had forgotten. She shook her head gently. "You speak differently than most I know. Perhaps because humans have not had as many centuries to learn the art of speeches," Daniel said with a small grin. "We are still learning how to stand among the stars without stumbling." For the first time in years, Illyra felt her heart lift. He did not speak like a politician or a noble. He spoke like a traveler, honest about his limits but hopeful about the journey ahead. They reached a bench beneath the tall crystal tree, where the light of the moons fell softly around them. Illyra sat, and Daniel remained standing until she nodded for him to join her. "Tell me of Earth," she said. "I have read books, but words on pages are never the same as words from one who has lived there." Daniel's eyes brightened. "Earth is not as grand as VR Prime. Our cities are young compared to yours, our skies hold fewer ships. But our oceans are vast, our mountains high, and our people, we are restless. We chase ideas as much as we chase the stars. Sometimes it leads us to mistakes. But sometimes, it leads us to wonders." As he spoke, Illyra could see the warmth in his eyes. He did not try to paint Earth as perfect, yet his pride was gentle, not boastful. She listened closely, drawn to his honesty. "And you," Daniel said softly, "do you truly wish for this marriage? Or is it only duty?" Illyra froze. No one had ever asked her that so directly. She lowered her gaze. "Duty has always come before choice. That is what I was taught." Daniel's voice was calm. "And if you were given a choice?" Illyra looked at him, meeting his steady eyes. For a moment, the world around them grew still. She did not answer, but the faint curve of her lips returned, small yet real. It was not love, not yet. But it was something she had not felt in years, a spark of hope, a quiet reminder that perhaps her future was not already written. And for the first time, the stars above did not feel like a cage. They felt like a door waiting to be opened. The following morning, the palace was alive with preparations. Servants swept the marble floors, guards polished their armor, and advisors reviewed the schedule for Daniel's first official tour of the palace. Yet despite the bustle, Princess Illyra felt a quiet calm. Last night's conversation had lingered in her mind like a soft light. The human's words, simple yet honest, had awakened something within her, a curiosity she had not felt for years. She met Daniel at the entrance of the palace gardens, where the light of the twin suns reflected softly on the crystal fountains. He was already waiting, standing with his hands clasped behind his back, looking small yet confident against the vastness of the palace. "Good morning, Princess," he said, bowing slightly. "I hope I am not too early." "You are never too early," Illyra replied with a faint smile. "I wanted to show you the parts of the palace that are quiet, where the walls do not watch." Daniel's eyes lit up. "I would like that very much." They walked together through the quieter wings of the palace, away from the eyes of the court and the expectations of the nobles. Here, the air smelled of fresh water and blooming crystal flowers, and the sound of gentle streams filled the corridors. For the first time since the arranged marriage was announced, Illyra felt free. "I want to show you something," she said softly. "Something very few have seen." They arrived at a small balcony overlooking the palace's private gardens. The view was breathtaking: rolling hills of silver grass, streams that glittered like liquid light, and the distant horizon where the twin suns met the stars. Illyra stepped closer to the edge, her eyes distant. "My parents, they expect me to follow rules, to smile only when I am told, to obey the traditions of our people," she said. "But sometimes, I wonder if I will ever find a moment just for myself." Daniel looked at her carefully, sensing the weight of her words. "And have you?" Illyra shook her head. "Not for a long time." He stepped closer, his voice calm. "Then perhaps this is one of those moments." For a long while, they simply stood there, watching the horizon. The breeze played with Illyra's hair, and the soft light of the suns made her skin glow. She realized that for the first time in years, she could speak without fear or expectation. "I have read about humans," Illyra said suddenly, turning to face him. "I thought you would be different. Proud, or loud, or perhaps untrustworthy." Daniel chuckled softly. I cannot speak for all humans, princess. But I have learned that honesty is always the best guide. And pride, it can wait for another day. Illyra felt warmth in her chest. Here was someone who did not see her as a prize, a duty, or a symbol of power. He saw her as a person. She had almost forgotten what that felt like. Would you like to know a secret? She asked, her voice dropping to a whisper. Daniel inclined his head. I would. Illyra led him further along the balcony to a small alcove hidden behind a crystal wall. Inside was a miniature garden, filled with rare plants that glowed softly, untouched by visitors for decades. She knelt and picked a small silver-blue flower, holding it out to him. This is the moonlight bloom, she said. It only opens at dawn, when the first sun touches it. My mother does not even know I keep it here. It is my secret place. Daniel smiled, accepting the flower gently. It is beautiful, he said. Just like the person who brought me here. Illyra felt her cheeks flush. She had not expected kindness to feel so powerful, nor honesty to be so comforting. The human's words were simple, but they touched her deeply. They sat together on the low stone bench in the alcove, and for hours, they shared stories of their worlds. Illyra spoke of her childhood, of lessons in diplomacy, of her fascination with the stars. Daniel spoke of Earth, its oceans, its mountains, and its people's curiosity. He spoke not as a leader or a diplomat, but as someone who wanted to connect, to learn, and to understand. You are brave, Illyra said after a while. To come here, to face my world, to face the expectations of my people. Daniel looked at her with steady eyes. And you are brave to live here, to carry the weight of duty every day, yet still dream of moments like this. They smiled at each other, not with the grand gestures of royalty, but with the quiet understanding of two people who had found a shared space in a world full of rules. In that hidden alcove, away from the palace and its expectations, they discovered a simple truth: they could speak freely, they could be themselves, and perhaps, in time, they could choose their own destiny. As the twin suns began to set, painting the skies with shades of gold and purple, Illyra felt a lightness she had not known for years. The arranged marriage, once a burden, now felt less frightening. Perhaps, with this human, there could be understanding. Perhaps, even, there could be friendship. And maybe, just maybe, her smile could return. The days passed quickly after Illyra had shown Daniel her secret garden. The bond between them grew quietly, like a small flame protected from the wind. But the palace did not remain peaceful. Whispers traveled faster than sunlight, and not all eyes were friendly. The nobles of Prime had always expected the princess to marry someone from a powerful alien family, someone whose name carried centuries of history. A human groom from a distant, young planet was shocking to them. Some whispered that it was a foolish decision, others that it was dangerous. In the council chamber, voices rose in sharp debate. A human, an elder noble exclaimed, slamming his hand on the table. Do you realize the risk? They have no alliances, no fleets. What if they betray us? Another advisor shook his head. We do not yet know their full strength. But Earth has intelligence and courage. This alliance could bring new opportunities if handled with care. The king listened silently, his fingers folded. He had seen wisdom in Daniel's words and courage in his actions, but he also understood the caution of his advisors. The decision had been made, yet that did not stop the murmurs of dissent. Illyra watched the discussions from the doorway, her heart heavy. She understood her people's concerns. She also understood her own feelings. She was drawn to Daniel, not for power, not for duty, but for the quiet honesty he carried. Yet, she could not ignore the tension building around them. Later that day, Daniel approached her in the gardens. His expression was calm but serious. Princess, I have felt the eyes of doubt, he said softly. Not all of your people trust me. Some believe I am unworthy of standing beside you. Illyra nodded. I know. Some nobles have already spoken against you, even behind closed doors. They do not see what I see. Daniel stepped closer. Then we must show them. Not with force or anger, but with honesty and action. Let them see that I come with respect, and that I seek friendship, not dominance. Illyra's lips curved slightly, a small but real smile. You speak well, Daniel. But the palace is a web of expectations and rules. It is not easy to navigate. Together, they walked through the palace corridors, observing the courtiers and guards. They saw the subtle signs of disapproval, a pointed glance here, a whispered comment there. Yet there were also moments of curiosity, as some nobles studied Daniel carefully, perhaps wondering if the human could truly represent Earth among their people. That evening, the king called a private meeting in the council chamber. Only the royal family, Daniel, and a few trusted advisors attended. Daniel, the king said, his tone firm, you are new to our world. You must understand that alliances in VR Prime are not only about words. Trust must be earned, and loyalty must be proven. Daniel bowed respectfully. I understand, Your Majesty. I did not come seeking power or recognition. I came seeking understanding. I will do everything I can to prove my intentions and to honor Princess Illyra. The king nodded, satisfied with the answer. Then we shall watch closely. Not because we do not trust you, but because the safety of our people comes first. Illyra felt relief and pride. Daniel had handled the council with patience and honesty. She realized that he possessed something rare, a calm strength that did not rely on intimidation. It was a strength that could change opinions, slowly but surely. As the weeks passed, small tests of trust emerged. The nobles arranged minor challenges, hoping to see Daniel falter. He was asked about the politics of distant systems, about trade routes, and about diplomatic customs. Each time, he answered carefully, showing respect and humility. Illyra watched him quietly during these sessions. She admired his focus, his patience, and the way he listened before speaking. Even when some nobles tried to provoke him with harsh questions, he remained steady. One evening, as they walked through the palace gardens under the twin moons, Daniel spoke softly. Princess, I know it is not enough for us to be honest and kind. I must show through action that I can be trusted. Not only by you, but by all who watch. Illyra reached for his hand, a gesture of quiet encouragement. And you will, Daniel. I see it already. You do not seek to impress anyone with words or power, only with truth. That is something rare in this world. For the first time, she felt a deep certainty. This human, unlike any other guest or noble she had met, could face the trials of her world. He could withstand doubt, opposition, and expectation. And perhaps, with him, the palace would learn that strength came not only from tradition or ancestry, but from courage, patience, and honesty. As the night sky sparkled above them, Illyra realized something remarkable. She no longer feared the whispers of doubt, the hushed warnings, or the cautious glances. Together, she and Daniel could face the challenges ahead. And slowly, her heart began to open, her smile returning in quiet moments of hope. The arranged marriage, once a shadow over her life, now felt like a path that could lead to something unexpected, friendship, trust, and perhaps, a future worth dreaming about. As the night grew deeper on the space station Elysium, a tense silence fell over the crowd gathered around the trial arena. Mara stood tall, her sharp eyes fixed on Orion. The air was thick with anticipation. No one had ever passed the trial night with Mara before, and now the moment had come to face the final test. The trial was never easy, but this last challenge was meant to break even the strongest spirits. Mara moved to the center of the arena and spoke with a calm but firm voice. This is the final challenge. It will test not only your strength and mind but your heart. Prepare yourself. The crowd watched closely as a large, glowing sphere appeared in the middle of the arena. It pulsed with bright light and emitted a low hum that vibrated through the floor. Mara explained, inside this sphere is a simulation. You will face your greatest fear. Only by overcoming it can you pass the trial. Orion nodded quietly. He knew the trial was about more than physical endurance. It was about facing what frightened him most and not letting that fear control him. As he stepped toward the glowing sphere, the light surrounded him, and suddenly the world around him changed. He was no longer on the station. Instead, he found himself in a dark, endless forest. Tall trees blocked out the stars above, and strange sounds echoed all around. Orion's heart beat faster, but he took a deep breath and reminded himself to stay calm. From the shadows, a figure appeared. It was a twisted, shadowy version of Mara herself, fierce and unyielding, just like the stories said. The shadow Mara spoke in a cold voice, "Why do you think you can face me? You are weak, a human. You don't belong here." Orion looked at the shadow and said firmly, "I may be human, but I am not weak. I have come here to prove that courage is not about size or strength. It is about facing what scares you and not giving up." The shadow Mara laughed cruelly and lunged forward, but as it attacked, Orion dodged and kept his balance. He realized that this was more than a fight, it was a test of his mind and spirit. If he could stay calm and confident, he might win. Suddenly, the shadow stopped attacking and spoke again. "If you cannot fight me, then prove your worth another way. Show me that your heart is stronger than your fear." Orion thought for a moment and then lowered his stance. Instead of attacking, he took a step closer and said, "I am not here to fight you. I want to understand you. Fear is something we all face, but it doesn't have to control us. We can choose to be brave together." The shadow Mara blinked, confused by his words. Then, slowly, it began to change. The dark figure softened, and the forest lightened. The shadows faded, and the space around Orion became bright and peaceful. Orion opened his eyes and found himself back in the arena. The glowing sphere was gone, replaced by the proud, real Mara standing before him. The crowd gasped and then fell silent. Mara's eyes shone with something new: respect. "You have done what no one else has. You faced your fear without anger or violence. You showed strength and kindness." Orion smiled, feeling tired but happy. "Thank you. The trial was not easy, but I believe fear can be faced with understanding. It's not weakness to choose peace." Mara nodded. "Tonight, you have changed the meaning of this trial. It is no longer just a test of power but a lesson in courage and heart. You have earned not only my respect but the respect of all who watch." The crowd began to cheer, their applause filling the air. Many who had doubted Orion now saw him as a true champion, not just because he survived but because he showed something greater. Mara stepped forward and extended her hand to Orion. "Welcome to the next chapter. Together, we will change what it means to be strong." Orion shook her hand, his smile never fading. For the first time, Mara's own smile appeared, soft and genuine. The trial night had ended, but a new journey was just beginning, one where strength and kindness walked side by side, where fear was met with hope, and where a human and an alien could become something greater together. The first light of dawn touched the surface of the space station Elysium. The night's tension slowly melted into a calm, hopeful morning. The crowd that had gathered for the trial was still buzzing with excitement, but now their cheers were softer, filled with new respect and wonder. Mara stood beside Orion on the platform, her posture relaxed but proud. The trial night, which once carried only fear and challenge, had transformed into a moment of unity. No one could deny the change in the air, a change sparked by a human who had walked through fear and come out smiling. "Orion," Mara said quietly, looking out at the faces in the crowd. You have not only passed the trial. You have changed what it means to be strong. Orion smiled back. Thank you, Mara. I think we all learn from each other. Strength is not just about fighting. It is about understanding and helping. Mara nodded, her eyes bright with approval. I will tell the elders. The story of tonight will be told for many years. It will inspire others to be brave in new ways. People began to gather closer around them, eager to hear what Mara would say next. For the first time, the great warrior was not just the judge of the trial but a leader ready to share a new vision. The Elder Council, a group of wise and respected leaders from many planets, stepped forward. Their leader, an alien with shimmering silver skin named Thaler, spoke with deep authority. Tonight, we have witnessed something extraordinary, Thaler said. A human has shown courage beyond what many of us believed possible. This changes the way we see not only humans but the future of our alliance. The crowd murmured in agreement. Some who had doubted Orion's ability now looked at him with admiration. Thaler continued, we will open our gates to new ideas, new friendships, and new strengths. The trial will no longer be just a test of might but a journey to discover the heart and mind. Orion felt a warm glow of pride. He glanced at Mara, who smiled softly. The respect between them was clear, and it felt like the beginning of something bigger than either of them. As the ceremony ended, Mara and Orion walked through the station together. People came forward to greet them, offer congratulations, and ask questions about the trial. Many wanted to know how Orion had stayed so calm when faced with fear. Orion replied simply, I remembered that fear is a part of life. It does not have to control us. If we choose to face it with kindness, it loses its power. Mara listened, amazed at how different this human was from anyone she had met before. His words carried a truth that even the toughest warriors could understand. Later, as they reached a quiet garden filled with glowing plants, Mara turned to Orion. You have given me hope. For the first time, I see a future where we do not fight alone but together. Orion smiled. And I have learned from you, Mara. Strength comes in many forms. Your courage and wisdom are inspiring. The stars above twinkled as if agreeing with their words. Suddenly, a soft sound interrupted the moment. The station's communication system came alive with a message from Earth, Orion's home planet. Orion, the message said warmly, we have been watching your journey with great pride. You represent the best of humanity, bravery, kindness, and hope. We look forward to welcoming you back soon, but for now, know that you have a place here. Orion's eyes shone with emotion. Thank you, he said softly. I am honored. Mara smiled and offered her hand. Let us walk this path together. The trial is over, but our adventure has just begun. They walked side by side, ready to face whatever challenges the future held. The people of Elysium would remember this night forever, not as a time of challenge and fear, but as a dawn of respect, friendship, and new beginnings. And for Mara and Orion, the trial night was just the start of a bond that would change the stars.